This morning we're going to walk through my orchard and take a look at things, see how things are progressing. This is one of my Honeycrisp trees. They seem to be doing pretty good. And primarily what we're going to be taking a look at is preparing the trees for this season. And you can see right here I got some damage from some boars. You can see where the boars got in. You can see some of the sap coming out, and it's time to spray some of these trunks here. But boar damage is the major problem with stone fruit. So we're going to treat this tree here. I'm going to take a look at here. This is a cherry tree, and this had some major damage here. You can see that most of the trunk is gone, but this little guy is still hanging on. This is actually a pie cherry tree. I don't know how much longer this thing is going to live. This right here, this poor guy is probably on his last season. Lots of major damage. I just have just a little bit of foliage at the very top. We come down here to take a look at the trunk. It has a lot of damage down here. So we're going to take care of this, spray the trunk, remove some of the foliage here, and see what we can do with this guy. But I got a Manchurian apricot that is doing quite well. A bunch of apple trees back here. And then one of my big challenges I have down here is this peach tree. This peach tree, it needs some desperate thing. Now if you take a look at this, you say, wow, this peach tree is loaded, going to have a bumper crop, but having this many peaches here is really actually counterproductive. So I need to come in here and thin all these peaches out. They say you should only have a peach about every 6 inches. That's pretty aggressive. I usually thin my peaches about every 4 inches. They say that a tree like this will produce, say, an X amount of pounds per tree. Whether the fruit is going to be large or small, it will always produce the same poundage of fruit. So the theory is, if you come in here and you thin these peaches, you'll get the same weight of peaches, but you'll just get bigger peaches. So if I don't thin this, I'll get the same weight of peaches on the tree. They'll just be smaller peaches. Now, I also have a problem with this. Let me show you this little leaf right here. If you can see this leaf, there's a little teeny hole in this leaf, almost like a BB. And if you come over here, maybe you can see some of these other holes right there on the edge. And you can see some holes up here, some holes right here. They kind of call that shot hole disease, or I know I'm not going to pronounce this right, and I'm sure someone's going to bring it to my attention. Coryneum Blight, which is a fungal disease. I believe it can only be treated in the end of the season with a copper spray. This is the first time in my 20 years here I've ever had any problems. So you can see the peaches right here kind of have this kind of a rusted appearance to it, and that's going to kind of stick with these peaches until they're mature. All these are clean peaches, and I wish I did not have a clean peach. This makes it harder to process when the peaches are older. So I'm going to come in here, and I'm just going to remove a lot of these peaches, and I'm just about every 4 inches or so. And it kind of breaks my heart just to take all these peaches off here, but if I really want some decent sized peaches, well, this is pretty much what you have to do. You just have to come in here and take all these peaches off about every 4 inches. If I want some decent sized peaches, you got to do this, or else you end up with peaches the size of golf balls. I'd rather have my peaches the size of apples and have some good sized peaches that I can freeze dry. But it has to be done. So I don't know if you can remember what it looked like before. The second thing about thinning peaches, this branch is rather long, and if I left all those peaches up here, when these peaches got a lot larger, it would just weigh down this peach, and there'd be a good chance that this branch would just snap off. Then I'd lose the entire branch altogether. So that's another reason why it's important to come in and thin your peaches, so you end up not breaking your branches and damaging your tree. So thinning is an important part to do. You know, this makes you sad to pick off all these peaches, because I guess one of the reasons why I sometimes feel reluctant to thin like this is what happens if later on this year I have a really bad windstorm or a hailstorm where the wind will knock off a lot of my peaches. If I knock them off now, then what do I have left later on in the year? If a windstorm comes off and knocks off my peaches now, then I have nothing. Well, I guess that's the joy of Mother Nature coming in and doing it for me. So you just have to have faith in doing what you're doing and try to do it right. Now, I already pruned all these peaches back in the limbs back in February, so I can't show you how to do that. But there's lots of videos, and you can contact your extension office on how to prune your peaches and go like that. So anyway, I'm going to come down here at this trunk of this tree, and I'm going to go ahead and clear all this garbage back, and we're going to go and spray malathion. Now, there's a lot of people out there that do not like some of the sprays that are available. Some people like the natural things, but when it comes to peach tree borer, you don't have a lot of choices. So I'm going to pull all the stuff back for a couple of reasons. One, if I don't pull all this vegetation back away from the trunk, I don't want any damage when I bring my string trimmer in here and have damage on my bark. So I'm going to come out here about 12 inches, take all the foliage away from here, all the weeds and the grass, and I have an ample supply of pea gravel, so I'm going to go ahead and backfill this gravel. So one, it gives the boars a less friendly environment to thrive in, and it just keeps the weeds away from the trunk, and it just makes it easier to maintain my peach tree. So I'm going to go grab my shovel, and we're going to go ahead and dig this area out. Okay, before I put in the gravel, I'm just going to give this a good dousing of malathion, because this is where, if the boars are going to go in, this is where they're going to come in, get all the nooks and crannies. Now, most extension offices can send you a text or an email when the right time of the year it is to spray for boars or any other type of pests that you might have in your orchard or on your fruit trees. And this will have to be repeated throughout the summer, throughout the springtime, to keep the peach tree borer at bay. So this is the finished product. I got a nice ring of gravel around the peach tree to keep the borers at bay, and I sprayed the base of the peach tree to also keep the borers from entering the bark. And if you take a look down here, you can see some of the results of all my thinning. Lots of little peaches down here, but that's a sacrifice you have to kind of pay if you want your peaches to be any significant size other than golf balls. So I have other things to do down here in my orchard. I have this tree right here that I'm going to have to end up thinning. I'm going to have to thin this out also. to, if I want bigger fruit, sometimes you just have to thin them to get what you want. So I hope you enjoyed this. Maybe you learned something a little bit. If you have any questions, contact your extension office. They are a great resource on what to do with your orchard and your fruit trees. And the better and the more healthy your fruit trees are going to be, the more you can freeze dry. So I'd like to thank you for your time. Please subscribe. And as always, go forth and thin your fruit trees so you'll have a better crop and more food to freeze dry. Thank you for your time.